Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Stuart Gamm. I am a consultant here at CriticalEdge Group in Hamden, Connecticut. We are a VAR for Microsoft Dynamics GP. I'd like to welcome you to the last in our 10-part series of webinars introducing the GP 2013 release. I prepared this using the original release of GP 2013. Within the last couple weeks or so, Microsoft has released Service Pack 1. I don't believe that would significantly impact any of the content that I'm showing, but I just wanted to make mention that caveat. I'm going to try to keep this under 30 minutes because I know everyone's busy. However, if you have to leave early, please feel free to do so. That will not be an issue. The presentation is being recorded, and a PDF will be emailed to all attendees. All participants, aside from myself, are muted. There's a question area at the bottom right of your meeting panel. Please feel free at any point to enter a question in that section. However, I will address them all at the end of the session. If you have a question that is very specific to your circumstances, that is not a general question that might be appropriate for the entire audience, please feel free to email me. I believe you could probably see my email somewhere in your meeting panel, and if not, it is Stuart, S-T-U-A-R-T, .gamm, G-A-M-M, at CriticalEdgeGroup.com. Okay, we have a very simple agenda. We're going to just briefly review the highlights, go right into the demo, and then we're going into Q&A. Now, this will be a little different than the previous webinars because there really isn't a heck of a lot new in terms of reporting. So I'm going to go over the few new things that are in the application. But most of the time will really be a refresher, which I believe is useful to everybody, as to what reporting options we have and what each option would be the appropriate forum for, what type of report. I will be concentrating on those products that you own as part of your GP licensing. So everything that, assuming you own Excel, everything that we'll be seeing today you already own, whether you're using it or not. There obviously are third-party products that might be beneficial to some of you, and I know some of you use already. I will not be addressing those today. So with that, let's review what we're going to be going over. So most of the time during the demo will be spent outside of GP. But within GP, I'm going to show you how you can link a SQL Server reporting service report to master records. In other words, you're on a customer card and you can actually go directly from there to a SQL reporting service report. And we'll discuss what a SQL reporting service report is a little later. You can select a printer during the printing process within GP, and you can access both the SQL reporting service reports and refreshable Excels, which we'll go over in greater detail later as well, from within GP. So that is what we'll see in the application itself. Then we'll look at the Excel reports, the SQL Server reporting service reports. We'll look at Business Analyzer and Manager Reporter, all of which are external programs. But, I mean, Excel obviously is part of Office, but all the other components are stuff you would own as part of your GP licensing. So with that, let's go right into the demo. Okay. So, and this is in case anyone here is attending their first webinar has not yet seen GP 2013. This is a new homepage, so it might look a little different from what you're used to seeing. First thing I want to show you is the SSRS link to master records. So on the GL account maintenance window, checkbook maintenance, customer maintenance, salesperson maintenance, prospect maintenance, vendor maintenance, employee maintenance, applicant maintenance, and item maintenance. All these, what you're about to see, would apply to any of those windows. I'm going to go to the customer maintenance card, and I'm going to bring up a customer. Now, the printer icon here has a little drop down, and out of the box, you would not see any of these reports. You just hit the printer icon as always and get the report out of the GP report writer. which they really don't enhance from one release to the next. But what you have the ability to do here is assign SQL reporting service reports by clicking Assign Reports. And these are all out-of-the-box SQL reporting service reports that are available to users, subject to security. And you could insert them into as a selected report, and you could print any of those right from this window. And for an out-of-the-box report, it would pass the parameter from the window to the report. Unfortunately, if you add a custom report like the single customer aging that I wrote, it will not pass that parameter. So we'll see the difference there in a second. In the top report, which in this case is customer information, becomes the default report, which is what you get if you simply click on the printer icon itself. But I'm going to go back to this one, and we'll start with that one. And basically, it's a SQL reporting service report showing the customer information, and it's already passed the parameter and fit as the parameter for the report. So this is a reporting on just that customer whose card I'm on. Now, unfortunately, and I actually talked to Microsoft about this, about passing a parameter to a report I write, and they said basically at this point it can't be done. So I've written a custom report called Single Customer Aging, and unfortunately, once again, because I can't pass the parameter, I have to provide the parameter. But it's still a relatively simple thing to do, to access a report from that window and even then select the parameter. So you can see you can create any report you want basically and access it from that window, any of those maintenance windows. I'm going to go now to a sales batch, and I'm going to print the edit list. And here's an area where Microsoft, or GP I should say, has basically caught up with the rest of the world, or at least the rest of the Microsoft world. As you probably know, in prior versions, once you printed something, you could not change the printer. So this is a particular problem with posting journals, because once you post it, it's not there right immediately to reprint. You have to jump through a few hoops to reprint it. But even if you printed a report that you can reprint, you have to close the report, change the printer, reprint it. Now you can select the printer as part of the printing process, just like virtually any other program in the world. So you can print any printer. You don't have to use a default printer within GP. Okay. So let's talk about briefly, before I get into the accessing reports, external reports, Smart List and Smart List Builder. Smart List, as I hope most of you are aware, is a tool provided by Microsoft with a bunch of views here arranged by module. And most of these are out of the box folders. And users can basically design their own views, with their own fields, their own selection criteria, what have you. And if I go to, for example, customers, I can see all my customers, and I can add, by going to columns, a ton of fields. It's an incredible number of fields I can add, and I can also, by going to search, I can add up to 4 search criteria. I could drop it down to Excel with a click of a button. I could save a view just by doing that. So it's very useful and very user-friendly, and something a user within GP can use very nicely. However, it is not a be-all and end-all. The general rule to remember with Smart List is everything is a one-to-one relationship. So, for example, if I go to payables transactions, there's going to be one line per payable transaction. So anything that has more values than 1 per payable transaction cannot be in this view. Something as basic as distributions. Every payables transaction has at least 2 distributions. Because it's not a one-to-one relationship, off the bat it will not be in this view. So there are some shortcomings to the views that come out of the box. So there is a tool called Smart List Builder, which allows you to build your own smart lists. And you could do that by linking things that might otherwise not be linked. For example, here is I've created this called check applied voucher distributions. Many customers have asked, we pay these checks, what's paid, what invoices are paid on them, what are the distributions on the invoice. That is a folder that will show you that. If I go down to SOP item summary, here is a summary smart list where I'm listing by item how much we sold, how much the cost was in total, and what the gross margin is by item. So it's summarizing all the sales data, and of course I could sort by any way I want. I could sort by from biggest seller to smallest seller, or however I want to sort it. So this is an example of a summarized smart list builder. So that is not out of the box, but that is something that anyone who uses smart list might be able to probably take advantage of, because smart list, as good as it is not always a solution. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, there are SQL reporting service reports and there are Excel refreshable reports, both library for both of which Microsoft supplies out of the box, and they're both accessible right here from your navigation pane. So I'm on the sales page. I can get to all my sales Excel reports by clicking on that, and I could get to all my sales SQL reporting service reports by doing that. So they are accessible, once again, subject to security, right from within the GP application. So that's basically what I want to show you inside the GP application. Let's move on to the actual reports. And we're going to start with a refreshable Excel. And what refreshable Excel is basically an Excel spreadsheet with a SQL statement or a SQL query built into it that pulls in live data from the application. And GP provides an out-of-the-box set that essentially mimics smart lists. So here is the sales transaction default provided out of the box, a smart list or spreadsheet that basically provides the same information that you would see in the same smart list, except this is a live read of data that is accessible to people who are not GP users and don't even have to have GP on their machine. So this is a way for non-GP users to access data. And one caveat I would say is without a lot of work, and I'm not 100% sure it can be done, you can't provide a parameter on the report. So basically you can pull in the data subject to the fixed rules in the SQL statement, and then you can filter within the spreadsheet. But if you want to limit what comes into what actually comes into the spreadsheet by using a parameter, for example, a date range on these transactions, that you can't do at the moment. So the way to use this type of report is for non-GP users to have access to the data and then use Excel functionality for analysis. So this is just, once again, a straightforward out-of-the-box spreadsheet with a straightforward list of data. I want to show you one I've done custom. This actually has 3 separate queries on it. One showing the top 5 customers by customer balance, open items. One showing the top 5 by sales year to date. One showing the top 5 by past due, just as an example. So this tab actually has 3 queries on it, and all I have to do is go to data and refresh all, and that's actually going to reread the data. And oops, if I could type my 2-letter password incorrectly, I would get past that. You actually probably would not have to have a password because the security would be set up differently. So it has just refreshed this data, and now I, as an Excel user, I can do whatever I want to, like make charts, pivot tables, what have you. So what this type of reporting gives you the ability to do is to provide raw data for people who could then manipulate the data to their specific requirements. So anyone who has any kind of Excel skills can take that raw data and make a presentation quality report out of that data. There's refreshable Excel. So once again, there is a library out of the box that essentially mirrors the GP out of the box smart list. However, having said that, anything that could be written within a SQL query, aside from having to provide parameters, and it will not be limited to GP data. So other data that's in your same SQL database that might not be GP could be incorporated into these reports as well. Let's talk SQL reporting services. SQL reporting services is, once again, a series of tools provided as part of your ownership of SQL, which you have to own if you have Microsoft Dynamics GP, that, in summary, is a report designer and also a way of distributing reports. And these will be presentation quality reports. Once again, there's an extensive out-of-the-box library, and we'll take a look at that in a minute. The other thing that you could do here is have subscriptions to these reports. For example, we had a client that had branches spread out throughout the country, and they wanted on a weekly basis for every branch manager, or maybe multiple people at a branch, to see the AP aging for their particular branch. So we designed the reports, and on, I believe it was every Friday afternoon, an email went out to the appropriate individuals with the appropriate reports, and they got this in their mailbox once a week, and they were able to see their aging, even though they were not GP users. So that would be an example of using the distribution side of SQL reporting services. So if I go back to GP for 1 second and go to my reporting service reports, once again as sales, here is once again an example of the size of the library that they give you out of the box. I think there's one report in here that I wrote. Everything else is out of the box. So it's a substantial starter set that you have. Now if we look at a couple of these reports, this is the out-of-the-box aging report. So I'm going to say I want this to be in detail, and I want it to be the whole customer range. And I'm going to say view report. So this is going to produce a AR aging and SQL reporting service, which is viewed in the URL. And you can see it has the aging buckets, and it's 26 pages long. At the end of the report, there's your totals. One good nice thing about this, as opposed to the GP report, which would provide exactly the same data, is this drops down to Excel or other formats very nicely. So this is, and obviously, compared to the GP report, has a lot more design capabilities. So this has significant advantages over the GP report writer, plus which is available to non-GP users. Because you could access this through a URL, you could access this, as I said earlier, with a subscription and an email on a weekly basis or whatever would be appropriate. Let me go to this other report, which is a single aging report. This is the one we saw earlier in the from within the application, drilling back from the customer maintenance window. But here is an example of the same report within the URL, within the SQL reporting services. So once again, someone who's not a GP user can come in here with the appropriate security, go right to the URL, and put an aging for any individual customer that they need to run it for. And let me just go back here to give you an idea of what some of the graphical capabilities are. If I go to top customers by year-to-date sales, now this is a graph. So here's just one example of some of the graphing capabilities. There's all sorts of, get a better idea later about some of the others. But I can click on this, and it's going to do a drill down. And I could then drill down and actually drill back into the application. And it's going to open a query on that specific transaction. So I clicked on that one, and here is the query on that. So it actually has the ability to drill back into the application from SQL reporting services. Now you can build, basically, using SQL reporting services, you can build a dashboard. You can build a dashboard right there in SQL reporting services, but another out-of-the-box tool provided by Microsoft is what they call the Business Analyzer. And that gives me the ability to put on my desktop, as you see here, Microsoft Dynamics GP Business Analyzer, a dashboard built of individual SQL reporting services reports. So here is something I'm accessing through my desktop without even going into GP, without necessarily being a GP user or having GP on my workstation, and I can build this to be, to have whatever components I want it to. And you can see some of the variety of graphical information you could see. And you could actually click on one of these graphs and open it up and change the parameters. So if I go here to change date, because the sample data is set in the future, I have no data. But once I change my date, I'm going to get some data. So you have the ability to interact with these. You can maximize one and actually open up the report in a URL. So it's very flexible. And once again, out of the box allows non-GP users to have a dashboard. And these reports can be custom made or customized from an out of the box report. So it could be whatever, pretty much whatever it needs to be. If it's in SQL, the odds are that we can report on it. So the last thing I want to show you, having covered manipulating data, having user access to data, and being able to report on it as they see fit in GP, looking at SQL reporting services, which is pre-designed reports, which can have a parameter, all of which is secured by your network login. Business Analyzer, which is a dashboard on your desktop. One thing we haven't looked at is financial reporting. Now, financial reporting certainly can be done in SQL reporting services, but it's not really the best place for it. With 2013, FRX goes away. If you're on 2010 now, you may be in a position where you have both FRX and Management Reporter. But with 2013, FRX goes away and you have to use Management Reporter. So let's take a look at Management, and that, of course, is a financial reporting tool. And it's very similar to FRX, so if you haven't seen it before, this is it. And just like FRX, has rows, columns, and trees. And if we look at, so this is a summary financial statement, summary P&L. And here's the rows. And you see you could tell it what rows, what accounts go on each row. Okay. So on this row, this is accounts 4,000 to 4,150, regardless of the department, et cetera, et cetera. The nice thing about this is you can, if I double click on one of these, you can actually use the account category, which is still a required field in GP on the account maintenance to design your reports. Or if you're using analytical accounting, you could use accounting dimensions as well. So you can filter these accounts on any of those components. Those essentially just become other segments as far as Management Reporter is concerned of your chart. So you have the whatever 2 or 3 segments you might have in your chart, plus a category, plus all your AA dimensions. As far as Management Report is concerned, they're just all dimensions on your chart. You can have calculations including margin percentages, calculate your margin, calculate the percentages, things like that, just like you could in FRX. If we look at the column, this is once again is very similar to FRX. So if you're used to seeing FRX, this should not look too different for you. But you could have calculated fields to calculate variances. You could have budgets, prior numbers, comparisons, just like you could in FRX. So you have all the FRX functionality. You've lost nothing there. But there are some things you've gained. And to show you that, I'm going to actually go to a report. So here is a report. So one thing that immediately jumps out at you is you can have a logo on it. So that's, however, cosmetic. That these are financial reports, and that could be significant in the presentation. Just like FRX, you could have a tree. So here is a summary of all units, or I could look at any individual unit that makes up the consolidated numbers. Okay, and once again, as in FRX, those trees can be secured, so individuals could be set up to only see their own units. If I drill down on that sales number, so here are the individual accounts make up of those sales numbers. If I click on an individual number, I can now drill down. In addition to creating a list from here, which shows you each individual transaction, I can actually drill down into dynamics. So that's 539.95 and account 4100. And you do need to be logged into the right company in order to do this. So here's my detail inquiry, and it opened up that account, and here's my 539.55. So now I can drill back into the individual transactions to review the detail of that number. So it's very much more useful than a straightforward list in GP because in Manager Reporter, because you can see any aspect of those individual transactions that are available in GP. You can also add comments. So if I go back here and this sales number was inordinately high for some reason, I can add a comment and say big sale to Critical Edge. And now there's a visual cue that there is a comment, and there's my comment. So a viewer can see that comment. So and any viewer who has access to the report can see that comment. So I should also mention that there are the viewer, which is what we're looking at now, is a separate program. So you see two different things on the dashboard. So you would have a limited number of designers who can actually generate a report, but you might have additional people who just have access to viewer and can see the report, can't generate a report, just look at reports generated by the accounting staff at an appropriate time. So once again, very similar to FRX with some additional functionality. If you use multi-currency, it uses the exchange rates from within GP, so you don't have to maintain two separate sets of rates as you do with FRX. So there's some graphing capabilities. Which I always have a problem doing here. But let's see. There is graphing capabilities, and I'm having trouble getting it to work, but you should be able to do a line graph or a bar graph. Now, I will warn you that it might be a bit of a case of the tail wagging the dog, because it will include a total row. So if you do a line graph of a row, there we go, select column. Let me do this. It will include the total. So here's a total row. So the graphing capability might have to design a report around the graph as opposed to the other way around. But there is some graphing capability. So anyway, that's basically what I have to show you. So we have looked at within the application of being able to print SSRS reports from master records, being able to select the printer as you're printing a report in GP. We touched on Smart List and Smart List Builder and how you can access Excel and SSRS reports from within GP. We looked at Refreshable Excel, SSRS, Business Analyzer, Manager Reporter, and some people would say, well, it'd be nice if everything is there was one reporting package and one reporting solution. And my response to that would be, not all reports are the same. Sometimes you want somebody to be able to generate a report but not change the design. Sometimes you want somebody to be able to view the report without being able to generate it. Sometimes you want people to be able to manipulate the data to their liking. So with the cross-section of solutions that we have, all those we're capable of all those options. So I'd like to thank you for your time and attention. And even though this says, I hope to see you at our next session, this is the last session in this particular series. However, I know we are planning to have future webinars, so keep your eyes open for that, and hopefully at least one or two of those will be pertinent to you. Okay, at this point, I would like to please submit any more questions that you might have, and I'll take a look and see what we have now in the way of questions. And right now there are no questions. So I will keep the session open for a few more minutes, provide you some time to come up with some last-minute questions here. All right. Well, Stephen, I'm getting no questions, so I would like to thank you for your time once again and wish everyone to have a good day. Take care.